Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to my podcast W5. Wow Woman Winning Wonderful World. Women's mothers are never on leave, never take a break. But it is truth that to make new records, previous records are broken. That is, to make you have to break. So breaks are important in life to make yourself feel live. So here I am back after a break. Friends, some people work for a cause, not for applause. Live life to express, not to impress. And such is our today's wow woman, the little known Bose, a feminist icon who fought for education of widows. Friends, world does not suffer a lot because of violence of good people, but it suffers extravagantly because of silence of good people. Lady Abala Bose is amongst good people who did her work silently, and her contribution to Indian history included fighting for women's suffrage movement along with education of widows. Guys and girls, it is general tendency to overrule silence and focus on violence. And so, Abala Bose, a strong activist name, doesn't feature in too many history textbooks. In the mid-19th century, heightened ideals of nationalism and independence also brought about a sense of introspection into several discriminatory practices in the country. These practices included caste and gender-based discrimination. The latter included sati, ostracization of widows, unregulated age of consent of sexual relations, child marriage, and property rights. Early Indian feminists included famous Bengali poet and social worker Kamini Roy, who was one of the first girl to attend school in British India at Bethune College at the then University of Calcutta. Roy vigorously fought for equal rights and actively participated in the women's suffrage movement. But even her feminism was inspired as she picked up the cues of movement from her classmate Abala Bose at Bethune. The point to raise here is even Kamini Roy is recognized, but Abala is not, who was source of inspiration to many. So today I would love to project this extraordinary wow woman to all of you. Now let us see the birth of Lady Bose. Abala was born in Barisal on 8 August 1865 to Durga Mohan Das, a prominent leader of Brahmo Samaj. Her mother, Brahma Moi, championed the cause of upliftment of widows who at the time faced severe ostracization and social injustices. Brahma Moi died when Abala was only 10 years old, but not before leaving a deep impact on her daughter. In what was a stark contrast to the norm at that time, Abala grew up in an environment that encouraged higher education of women like Roy. She was one of the earliest entrants to Bethune College and went on to study medicine at Madras University. She appeared for her final examination but had to return home before the results were declared owing to ill health. While she passed her exam, she never learned of her success. After college, at the age of 23, Abala married Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, who went on to be known as father of radio science. In 1916, he received a knighthood, and Abala subsequently came to be known as Lady Bose. Much has been written about her role in her husband's success. She was his inspiration to carry on his scientific work. But Abala's role in India's history is larger than just being a woman behind her husband's success. Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose's work in the field of radio science required him to often travel across the world. Abala would accompany him on as many tours as she could. Here, she began to observe how women lived in different societies. While there were many differences in the way of these women led their lives, some struggles were the same for women everywhere. On returning from a particular trip to Europe, Abala took it upon herself to do everything in her power to improve the state of education for women in India. In 1910, she became the secretary of Brahmo Balika Shikshalay in Calcutta and served this post for the next 26 years. Following this trip, she also brought to India the Montessori school system and in 1919 started the Brahmo Girls' School. The same year, she established Nari Siksha Samiti, wherein she brought together eminent personalities like Chitranjan Das, Dr. Rajan Mukherjee, Prafulla Chandra Roy, the father of chemical science in India, social reformer Priyambada Banerjee, and Sir Dr. Neel Ratan Sarkar, who promoted science and technology education in contemporary India, amongst other to promote the spread of education for women and provide financial assistance to widows. The organization worked hard to ensure female representation in educational bodies and pressed for gender-sensitive syllabus in schools. This was not all. In her lifetime, Abala set up around 88 primary schools and 14 adult education centers in the British province of Bengal. This included the Murlidhar Girls' College, which she set up jointly with Krishna Prasad Basak. The two also set up the Beltala Girls' School in Bhawanipur, South Calcutta in 1920. Both Abala and her husband were close friends with Swami Vivekananda and Sister Nivedita, his disciple. In fact, Sister Nivedita is said to have encouraged Dr. Bose to continue pursuing his scientific interest and even helped him out financially when he struggled with British government's indifference to his contribution to radio science. With her help, Abala was able to train teachers at the kindergarten level, and the two revolutionized the educational system by providing self-defense training to young girls and allowing the older girls to step out and visit places of their interest. In 1925, Abala established Vidyasagar Bani Bhavan, which provided both teacher training as well as education to widows. These women would then be employed by schools that came under the jurisdiction of Nari Siksha Samiti. The institute was the first in Bengal that trained primary and pre-primary teachers. Abala's exposure to the Montessori education system in Europe proved to be helpful in setting up the training system. She believed in going beyond education. Simultaneously, Lady Bose also set up the Mahila Shilpa Bhavan in Kolkata and Jhargram. Here, she encouraged entrepreneurship and financial independence of distressed women and widows, so they could lead lives that were free from the shackles of societal expectations at the time. These women were trained in different arts and crafts, and the institute would then help them set up their own businesses. Abala also set up a training institute in Kamarhati, where she trained poor women in weaving, leatherwork, pottery, and tailoring. Additionally, she was chosen as the first president of Bengal Women's Education League. Abala also pioneered women's suffrage, the right to vote in India, along with freedom fighter Sarojini Naidu, Margaret Cousins, Irish Indian educational and suffragist Dorothy Jinraj Das, English feminist, and Ramabai Ranade, social worker and activist. She was part of delegation that made Edwin Montagu in 1917 while he was visiting India to negotiate the Montagu-Chelmsford reform. This led to Indian women's struggle to secure political and civil rights, and the committee asked for franchisee on the same terms as men. In 1921, Bombay and Madras became the first province to extend the franchise to women. Bengal followed in 1925. After India gained independence, Abala's work shifted more towards education and rehabilitation of displaced and economically distressed young girls and women, irrespective of their marital status. A woman is a mind was the thinking of Abala. Her drive for educational reforms and upliftment of distressed women came from a very deep-rooted understanding of how the system worked at the time. She was aware that simply building schools would not reform how girls were being educated. Training a number of teachers to cater to different students was a must. She emphasized on the education of Parda women instead of waiting for them to be able to break out of oppression and educate themselves. She understood that Brahmin Pandits would have to be replaced by female teachers in order to make girls more comfortable. In a piece she wrote for Modern Review, an English magazine, she said that women were entitled to better education, not so they can get better matches in terms of marriage, and not even so they become more valuable as daughter-in-law in their new homes, but because a woman, like a man, is first of all a mind, and only in the second place physical and a body. In her final days, Lady Bose donated rupees 10 lakh to set up Sister Nivedita Adult Education Fund, which provided literary classes, first aid, home gardening, and many other such skills to women in rural areas. She spent her remaining days in the Bose rented home in Darjeeling. Her husband passed away in 1937 and Abala died in 1951. The Darjeeling house has since been renovated and plans have been made to turn it into a major cultural and educational center. When women support and uplift each other, wonderful things happen. Abala Bose dedicated her life to this very principle and helped shape some of the earlier concepts of the feminist movement we follow to this day. For this reason, it becomes imperative to recognize her contribution in the lives we modern women lead today and understand how much we have to thank Lady Bose for this. Friends, if we keep Bible, Quran, Gita at home, वो लड़ते नहीं, but लड़ते तो वो है जो इसे पढ़ते नहीं. So stay tuned, listen to Rajni's podcast W5 to explore the journey of wow women who are striving to make this world wonderful with a never-ending effort. Meet you tomorrow with next wow woman. Till then, live your life with your khwaish. Bye-bye.